Blessings, soul family. This is Jules, and this is Evolution, a pathway to infinite possibilities. And today, I'm actually recording with our community, and we invite you to become part of our community. And we'll talk more about that later. But today, we are going to talk about saying yes in the divine frequency, and tuning into where we are saying yes to something is really the space of where that yes will move into as we move forward in the frequency of that yes. And if we can always just take a moment to really settle in to what our yeses are, we have clarity on whether or not something is actually a yes, or if it is a chemical response to creating an emotion that is leading us to that yes. And so I want to go into that a little bit more, and so that we can just kind of move right into the frequency and stay there. I'm just going to go ahead and go to break. But before we do, if you would like to be part of our community and come in and listen to these recordings live and play with all the other wonderful things that we do, go to activateevolution.com and learn more about what we're doing. We'll be right back. And this is Jules with Evolution. Okay, so let's just get in and get to the juicy stuff. This is actually a topic that I'm super passionate about. Those of you that have been kind of part of our community and hanging out in the frequency of what we're creating, you'll hear me say, always make sure it's a yes, because where we're saying yes to something matters. And so often we get excited about something and we'll say yes and we'll trigger and we'll either buy or we'll sign up for something or whatever it is. And then once we're actually in it and that emotional response of that excitement starts to go away, we start to question whether or not that was the yes for us. And when we allow interruptions to come in like that, we start to doubt our own self, our own intuition, you could say, our own guidance, all of those beautiful things. And I think it's, first of all, I want to say, if you get excited about something and you want to say yes to it, I'm all about that, because excitement is a beautiful energy. And when we're saying yes in something that we're excited about, most often it's going to lead us in the right direction. But we also live in a society where there's a lot of ways that companies are advertising or putting information out there where they like to draw you in with kind of that excitement energy in order to say yes. But the yes is actually not coming from that divine space within. And so that's what I wanted to talk about a little bit today, because I think if we can just become aware of whether or not the yes is coming within, or if we're being enticed into a yes, will allow us to really go in deeply to that place of not only self love, but deep self respect and the respect and the inner guidance that we feel. Because if we're saying yes from that space, nothing can take us from that energy that we were saying yes in, because then we know that yes was actually from the divine within. And then when we start to have interruptions that may come in afterwards, we don't give them much energy because it came from the place of that deep yes. So let's talk a little bit about what happens when we say yes in that kind of excitement energy. It feels more like a trigger response. We all know what this yes feels like. Everybody has done it before. One of my favorite ways of describing it is that you go to the car lot to buy yourself a car that has good gas mileage that the whole family will fit in. You have all of the list of things that are practical that work is going to work within your life. But then when you get there and you see all the other shiny, beautiful cars, and you drive away in something that you did not show up for. That is kind of that influential of something on the outside changing the information that you went there on the inside. And those, I actually, way back when, I had a friend that gave me a book one day, and it was called How to Hypnotize Your Customers into Buying. And I was like, somebody actually wrote a book like this, you guys. How to hypnotize your customers into buying. And I just looked at him and I was like, you do not know what we're creating here. And that energy does not work in building whatever it is, whether it's a relationship in a business, a relationship with a friend, a relationship with your significant other, is that hypnotizing. Another word that you can put there would be manipulation. Those energies where those enticing messages are put out there to entice a decision one way or the other. And that is never where we want to make a decision from. And so, what I want to invite in today is what it feels like to say yes in the divine frequency. So, the first thing that I do when I get excited about something, and I have to admit, I don't normally get excited about things that I see outside of myself. And one of those reasons that that's probably true is that I don't go searching for things ever. Things always come to me. So, that's one thing that you could kind of maybe look at in your own life is, are you always out there searching for something to create an emotion in you? Or do you let things come to you and allow yourself to go into, wow, well, is this here for me to see? And if so, can I sit with it and see what information it has to give to me, allowing that to kind of brew the divine frequency within you? And if there is a connection or a reflection there, then we can bring that into our hearts, take it a little bit deeper. And one of the things I always do is I sleep on it. Is if it feels right to me and it's a yes and I get super excited, then I know, okay, I don't ever say yes in the energy of excitement, because I know my body is in a chemical response. And I want to be sure that the yes is actually coming from the divine frequency in my heart. And so I'll always sleep on it. And then the next morning is, if I'm still feeling excitement, but it's coming more from a deep level of my heart, I know that it's an absolute yes. And once I'm in that yes, I can stay in that yes because I sat with it and sat with it within the divine within me before pulling the trigger. Let me just like kind of move back into the frequency of kind of that place of saying yes in that excited energy. And the biggest thing I've noticed for myself, and I think that if we all kind of sit in it, we'll have some sort of similar reflection in this space. But when we say yes in the excitement and we immediately go into the trigger response, we're not allowing the divine to actually come in and kind of move underneath that yes, so that the yes is actually in the foundation of the divine. And because when we're going from, this is what the offer is, let's say, to, or this is the house, or this is the car, or whatever the shiny object is that it could be, gosh, I mean, it literally could be like, do you want to go out for coffee? And if it's coming from this place of that emotional response, it's always nice to just sit for just a moment and let the divine come in to move underneath the yes to create a foundation. And when we're doing bigger decisions, it's always important to kind of sit with that for a little bit longer. And I kind of told you what I do with that. And what happens when we say yes in that excited energy is so often it feels really good. We ride the wave of the emotion of whatever it is of our expectation or our hope or the promise of what this thing is that I'm saying yes to. But then when we actually enter the frequency of whatever it is, so let's say it's a course and you're like, I know I'm supposed to do this course. I'm so excited about it. It's a little different if you've been sitting with the course, like, yes, I'm definitely doing this. And when it's offered again, I'm going to say yes to it. That's a little different than, let's say somebody comes and they're like, this is what my offer is. This is what I'm doing. Become part of my program. And they show you all the benefits and all the wonderful things that are going to happen if you do it and all these things. And you just get so excited and you're like, yes, this is what I want for myself. And you go and you sign up. And then when you actually get into the program and you're looking for that emotion that you said yes to, like, where is that emotion that I said yes to? All those promises of what was going to happen for me, I can't find it here. And then you go back and you're like, well, was my yes to what was being promised to me by another person? Or was my yes coming from that the divine was saying, go do this because I'm going to show you the way to your infinite possibilities? And then when we're in the program, we're searching or we're entering the frequency of the teaching from the divine frequency. And so it's not that we're going out and we're grabbing onto energies that we're being promised, but we are going into our own frequency and letting the divine actually show us the way with the reflection of whatever the material is. So I hope that that kind of makes sense in that space of the difference, because when we're saying yes to something and we're saying yes to something that somebody else is promising us, I hesitate in those spaces, because if somebody else is promising me something, unless it's that the promise is, if you continue doing your work, you will see change in your life. I would say that's a promise that we all can kind of sit in, because it can't be otherwise. But if the promise is, if you sign up for this program, you're going to start making $10,000 a month, I would hesitate in that, just because it's a promise that's being made with something that worked for somebody else. But can you move into that same frequency without the support of the divine behind it? So going back to that place of how we say in the frequency of our yes, when we're saying yes and we're allowing the divine to come in and create the foundation of that yes, it is the foundation that we will continue to move back into when we start to doubt ourselves. Because the truth is that when we say yes to things that are at a higher frequency than where we're at now, and those would be those bigger yeses, is like, yes, I'm gonna learn this, or yes, I'm gonna create this, or yes, I'm gonna start my own business, whatever it is, that those yeses are in frequencies that are above what our reality is in now, and or it's in a frequency that doesn't match where we are now. And so, but if we take the time and we let the divine come in and it's in perfect resonance with that yes, then what happens is that when we start to do the things that we need to do to move into the frequency of what it was that we said yes to, that when those doubts start to come in, like those little mind chatter of, did I make the right decision? Am I going to be able to do this? What if they were wrong? Or what if I was wrong? All of those little voices start to come in. all we have to do is say, where was my yes? Where did it come from? Move back into our hearts, and the divine is still there supporting that yes. And so all of that mind chatter just starts to fall away. We move back into that feeling of the yes because it was part of us, it was in our hearts. It was, the divine is still there. And not only is the divine still there, but if we actually move back into the frequency of that connection of the divine, of that initial yes, most often it's even at a higher frequency. Because as we continue to move forward in the creation of that yes, the divine is going to continue to pour into us until it's just pouring into us so much that all of those doubts fade away, and that everything just becomes part of that yes. And then we enter what I call creation. And it is such a beautiful way to live our lives. And if we can just start at the inception point of when we're about to move forward into a new frequency through choice, knowing where our yes comes from is everything. It is everything. And so that's what I want to just invite everybody into, is before we say our yeses, to just take some time to sit with the yeses and let the divine be the foundation of that yes. Because life changes when we move into the foundation of the divine in our yeses, and the trust that we have in ourselves to make decisions and follow through with those decisions is huge. And we all know what it's like to say yes to something and then doubt it later. It's not a good feeling, and it gets confusing. And then we start to lose trust in our ability to make good choices. And we all know what that feels like as well. And not everything is that we can take it back to the department store and return something, if it was always that easy. And so I think that's when we can start to practice saying these yeses with the divine as the foundation of our yeses on the little things, and practicing it in what it feels like there. Then we can start to practice it on the bigger things as well. So, what I'd like to do is now just move into a process of just allowing our bodies to take on the frequency of what it feels like to say yes and the divine frequency, so that when we all go out and live our lives and day to day, and we have opportunities come our way, that we can move back into this frequency and invite the divine to become the foundation of our choices and see what that feels like. All right, so let's just all place our hands on our hearts. Take a deep breath. And then I love just starting with just breathing in those particles of possibility, just allowing them to trace along the brain and down through the spine, and then out through the mouth. And just doing that a few times. And then as you're breathing and it's moving down your spine, just allow those particles to start to spread out into your body, just creating more space between the cells and the molecules. Knowing that our concept of form is also space, and that we can move our consciousness from what it feels like to be in form, and then move into space or the elements beyond form. Just feeling what it feels like to allow your consciousness to move back and forth as these particles of possibility create a vibrational pattern within your body that has not been created yet. So now, when you breathe in those particles of possibility, let them spread out through your body, and just bring your attention to your form or to your body. And just take one more deep breath. And as you're breathing out, allow your consciousness to move into these particles of possibility. Just feel what it feels like to be in these beautiful particles of divine possibilities, and that your body has the intelligence to hold this frequency to where you can create form at a higher frequency than what your experience of form is now. Just allowing your consciousness to continue to exist in this space of particles of possibility. And from this space, we invite in the divine frequency to connect to these particles of possibility. And just feel how your body raises in frequency even more. Just feel the love and support, the purity, the wisdom. And now just allowing all these particles of possibility to move into the probability of the divine foundation of your heart. So just beginning to see all of these particles moving into your heart center, creating a vibrational pattern of what it feels like to exist in the wisdom of the divine within, and allowing these particles of probability to move into the bloodstream. Just feeling what it feels like as it begins to pump through your blood, as it flows through your body, raising the frequency of your body even more, as your body knows what it feels like to be connected to the divine intelligence within. And if there's something in your life that you're thinking of saying yes to, or a decision that needs to be made, just gently place it into center of your heart and invite these particles of possibility to create the probability and the intelligence of the divine frequency. And just resting for just a moment as you connect to your heart in this space, and allowing your body to feel what it feels like. Just noticing if the frequency of your body goes up or if it goes down. Not needing to make a decision, you're just noticing what it feels like. Letting your mind go and letting your body take over, because your body is holding the intelligence of this divine frequency. So just resting in the heart as you continue to let go of the mind. Moving back into the frequency of all those particles of possibility within the body. Just allowing the expansion to happen. And just sitting one more moment. As you feel the foundation of a yes, your body knows what it feels like to say yes in the divine frequency. So just saying to yourself, my body knows what it feels like to say yes in the divine frequency. And just recognizing what the body feels like. Fully having the experience of what it feels like. And then just taking in one more deep breath as we allow these particles of possibility to continue to create divine frequencies. of possibilities that we will soon move into, just uplifting the cells and the molecules of the body. And then we can say thank you. I love you. It is done. And it's done. So, as I was going through that process, again, it just came to me, as change makers and way showers, and those of whether we've been on the path for a long time or whether we're very new on our path, being discerning about what energies we're inviting into our lives is important. Even if it's as small as, do I want to have coffee with this person? Is it serving the frequency of who I'm becoming? Is it serving the frequency of inviting others into the frequency of what I'm becoming? And if the answer is yes, there may be resistance of like, well, I may not want to do that, because not every yes is going to come from that place of excitement. Sometimes it might feel scary to say yes, but if we can say it from the foundation of that divine, we cannot fail. We cannot fail from that space. And why would we not want to take the time and discipline ourselves just a little bit to take the time to say yes from the frequency of the divine within? So that's what I invite you all to do as we move forward in these next couple of weeks. And definitely continue to play in the energy. I mean, my body is buzzing right now, just inviting that space for my body to experience that. And it's a very powerful place to exist in. So go play with it, see what the divine brings forth. And until we meet again, we invite you to become part of our community at activateevolution.com. Sending you so much love as you move into your pathways of infinite possibilities. Namaste.